The Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." They answered him, "We are descendants of Abraham and have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean by saying you will be made free?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. What does it mean to be Lutheran? I know I've asked you this question before on Reformation Day. Part of the reason we're doing our study on the small catechism is to help us understand a little more about being Lutheran. But this is Reformation Sunday, the day that we commemorate the birth of a new church, the church that separated itself from the group we now call Roman Catholic. It's also the day we take special note of the actions of Martin Luther, the man who is credited with starting all of this. It seems in this context like a good time to reflect on what it means to be Lutheran. That answer varies. Now, I'm sure that in many sanctuaries across our nation, there are parish members dressed up as Martin Luther, carrying a big hammer, joining the Sunday morning procession. Or maybe there are pastors dressed up as friars, waving their hammers from the pulpit. These celebrations are fun, but frankly, portray an exaggerated and, dare I say it, probably inaccurate vision of the Reformation. Now, I don't want to burst anybody's historical bubble here, but contemporary scholars tell us that it is highly likely that Luther posted his 95 theses by sending them to his bishop in the mail. Hence, post, as in post office. If he did post them on some sort of public bulletin board, he probably used little globs of wax, not nails or a hammer. In fact, the earliest images of Luther with a hammer in his hand appeared in the mid-19th century. In this nation, a time of significant hostility between Lutherans and Roman Catholics. Yes, I know. I was disappointed too. But we need to accept, after 500 years, that much of what we believe about this actual event is dubious, to say the least. So I'm grateful that no one here suggested any sort of costumed reenactment of the nailing of the thesis, or suggested that we have a genuine worship service, the way Luther used to worship. I personally have no desire to preach for 2 to 3 hours, which is what Luther routinely did. I'm also pleased with the way that both the ELCA and other global Lutheran bodies have chosen to lead up to this day. Many Lutherans have chosen to walk, to talk, to listen, and to worship with Catholics. Yes, Lutherans around the world have used this year as a time of international ecumenical conversation with Roman Catholics, a time of mutual effort to erase past errors and discover how we can work together to serve God and neighbor. Part of our worship today is a result of the work of Lutherans and Roman Catholics coming together. Our prayer of the day and the kind of long Eucharistic prayer in our communion liturgy are from a service prepared by the Vatican and the Lutheran World Federation. Standing side by side with our Roman Catholic sisters and brothers, we can continue to study our theological differences and develop our relationship in new ways, even gently correcting each other's exaggerated memories. This, I believe, is part of what it means to be Lutheran. It has nothing to do with being Scandinavian or German or bringing Jello salad to potlucks or liking tuna hot dish. Some Lutherans may do these things, but Lutherans also live in Africa and the Caribbean and India, and Lutherans also like to eat fufu with peanut stew and Cajun foods and cook with exotic spices like garam masala. Being Lutheran means believing, proclaiming, and living the good news. Today we heard the words of Paul. Since all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, they are now justified by God's grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Jesus Christ. It means that we put our faith not in ourselves, but in the person of Jesus Christ. It also means recognizing that this is not a uniquely Lutheran idea. Yeah, Lutherans kind of started it 500 years ago, but this good news is the core of the Scriptures. The grace and faith. Grace and faith are the heart of the new covenant that Jeremiah spoke of in our first reading. God has formed a covenant relationship with us, and that is based not on external works or obedience, but is written in our hearts, giving us a relationship of faith and trust. God sets us free so that we can live lives of love and service and sacrifice, not to earn God's love or favor, but simply to experience the joy that comes from helping others. That we are free, that we might be free to live lives of joy and peace and patience and kindness and gentleness. What it means to be Lutheran is that we constantly proclaim this good news with our words and with our lives. Other Christian denominations do this too, and we as Lutherans need to more fully recognize the good news of grace that comes from so many of our Roman Catholic sisters and brothers. We have a joint declaration on justification with the Catholic Church, where we actually agreed, this was some years ago, that we are all saved by grace through faith in Jesus Christ and not by human accomplishments or obedience. So, reach out to your Roman Catholic neighbors. You could even invite them to church. When I was in Forest Hill, we had a Catholic church that worshiped in our sanctuary on Saturday afternoons. And frankly, if they missed church on Saturday afternoon and wanted to receive communion, they would just come to church with New Hope on Sunday morning. And I'm pretty sure that Father Peter knew this was happening. So we can cooperate with each other. Having an actual official communion service with our Catholic brothers and sisters, that's probably a ways down the road. That whole transubstantiation thing, we haven't quite come to terms on that yet. But let's think about that, not as I have in the year leading up to this, continue to think about that. Continue to look for and watch for ways that we are cooperating with the Catholic Church and ways that we can continue to cooperate with the Catholic Church. So I want to leave you with a prayer. It's actually in our hymnal. It was written in the 17th century by someone who had some unusual circumstances that I will not go into here. But the prayer says, "Gracious God, we pray for your holy Catholic, that's small c, church. Fill it with all truth and peace. Where it is corrupt, purify it. Where it is in error, direct it. Where in anything it is amiss, reform it. Where it is right, strengthen it. Where it is in need, provide for it. And where it is divided, reunite it. For the sake of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen."